Yeah, I don't like structure at
Okay,
all.
good. Good.
Yeah.
Because giving yourself the permission to be messy here is going to be very valuable.
Yeah, and my whole intention with the fact that we're even recording this in the first place is to show the mess. Personally, I see the value in showing how the sausage gets made when it comes to building a $1 billion fitness empire. Um, Granted, most people see that in hindsight, but I still see it's very important to capture this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. You're good.
Cool.
Okay.
And don't let me distract you at all. I'll be floating, double checking things.
Yeah.
Just ignore me.
I absolutely will.
We're live though, right? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So how do we typically kick this off?
Well, let's start off with let's just start off with you just telling me a little bit more about the $1 billion empire that you're building.
Absolutely. Okay. So the best blueprint to point to is WWE and the franchise that they made. Putting myself in the position of Vince McMahon, I am looking at the natural bodybuilding circuit and am aiming to highlight 30 natural athletes within that circuit and basically promote them into superstar status in the same way that WWE has turned their wrestlers into worldwide entertainers. That blueprint is intended to install these individuals as role models and leaders within the space of bodybuilding, but ultimately as within fitness industry as well, due to the fact that I feel that there is a lack of transparency, honesty, integrity, nobility within the industry, and I'm looking to change that with basically this empire that is being built.
Okay. So tell me, what is important to you today as you're building this empire?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. All right, so it's a couple of things, and we can go into that. My biggest concern is I want to get insight in the value of kindness in the workspace. And what I mean by that is I have been planning this idea for over 10 years now. And it's been a lot of visualization and seeing what it's supposed to look like and seeing the type of people that I'm supposed to work with and leading with this visual. Now that we're here, I understand that it's not just people that I'm working with, it's people's feelings. And that wasn't really something I accounted for. In fact, it was something I just completely ignored because I'm so goal oriented that when I try to factor in people's emotions and feelings, it slows me down. And I'm seeing how it can kind of become an issue.
So what is it that you believe about people's emotions and feelings?
I think they're fleeting. And I think that it's all about validation and affirmation. And it's my goal to kind of rewire people's brains and to stop focusing on like what's happening in the moment and think about the bigger picture and to attach yourself to the outcome of a really great job done and care less about like what's happening right now and like how you feel about what's happening right now, you know?
So how are people's feelings slowing you down?
Okay. All right. All right. So the big concern that I'm having right now is role distribution. And what I wanted to talk to you about is identifying how to actually acknowledge people within this empire franchise company that's being built from the ground up. I understand the value that I provide as I don't even like to use titles really. I really would like to identify each individual as a leader and kind of like what we were just talking about, leading by example. So you have the potential to be as great as you want to be, being yourself and just actualizing your own potential, you know, and we don't have to attach a title to that. What I notice is that based on the way that society has been structured up until now, titles matter, credit matters. And I'm trying to figure out how to properly acknowledge a person's value and contributions outside of just giving my own, like taking away my credit and giving it to someone else, because I don't see how that can help a person.
Mm-hmm.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me more about your credit.
Okay. All right. I'm glad that you asked that. So I would say that my credit is in the idealization of this concept and the realization of it through the proper process of executing. That's kind of the job and responsibility that I have taken on. I am committed to seeing this vision come to life. I don't want to give that responsibility to anyone else, nor do I think anyone else is asking for it. This is an idea that is over 10 years old, and it's been in my brain, and now I'm just executing on an idea that's like very old. So when it comes to other people getting into the project, they hear the idea and they get excited about it and they want to be included, but to what extent? I'm struggling with telling a person what their contribution is, you know, because their contribution is not my contribution and it's not supposed to be. Your job is not supposed to be my job, you know? So that's kind of the issue I'm running into.
So what would be really valuable for you to have when you walk out of these doors today?
Honestly, it's going to sound weird, but I think what I'm looking for or asking for is permission. I think I'm looking for permission to be. I want to understand. Do you lose points as a leader for not being sensitive, or like do you gain more points for being sensitive? Like I understand that like the direction that this is going, I will identify myself as a leader within at least the fitness industry, if not the entertainment industry, and I also have aspirations to move into politics later on. So the way that I make decisions is very important because they will be studied. And I want to understand there's different ways to lead. What are the acceptable ways? I'm looking for permission to find the right way to be a leader, I guess.
I'm going to challenge you on that permission. I'm looking for permission to find the right way to be a leader. What is the permission you really want to give yourself?
To like the word ruthless comes to mind. I've had this desire to just be ruthlessly decisive. I don't really like to check in with people. I don't like to check in with people. You know, if I've been thinking about this for a long time, I don't want to check in and see how you feel about the idea that I have because this is my idea, you know? Yeah. So, yeah, I think that might answer your question.
Yeah. So the permission to be ruthless, the permission to not have to check in with anybody.
Yeah. And that's honestly why that's why relationships make me uncomfortable because I don't want to check in with anyone. I don't want to ask for permission to do anything. I don't want to like have to call someone and say, hey, I'm going to go to the store or I'm going to make this phone call and I'm going to make this deal. I don't want to check in with anyone in relation to the decisions that I make. Yeah. I'm comfortable with, you know, if we're having an organic conversation or let's say you're my coach and I call up my coach and hey, I was thinking of doing this. You can tell me your advice or your opinion or your perspective on the thing that I plan on doing, but I'm going to do whatever I want after I listen to your advice, you know? And I guess my issue is I don't want to attach myself to how you feel about the fact that I didn't take your advice. I don't want any part of that, you know? And it's not personal. It's just, I was just calling to hear your input. That's all. Like whatever I do with it that's it, you know?
So the permission to be ruthless, the permission to not check in with people, the permission to make decisions regardless of how it will make someone else feel.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. What was the breath in for?
Well, I was thinking about, so we're building this franchise around 30 natural bodybuilders. And in like the best idealized version of it, all of these athletes are better than me, all of them. This is my second year in the sport of bodybuilding, and I'm looking for athletes who have better physiques than me, who have been in the game longer, who have championship titles and things of that nature. So I'm thinking about the concept of how do I properly inspire them as the leader of this movement, of this idea, concept? How do I properly inspire the people who are further ahead of me in this sport to believe in me and the decisions that I make while still saying that, like, hey, I want to do whatever the fuck I want? Is that fair? Is that right? Is that the right strategy? You know? Yeah.
How will you know when it's right?
How will I know when it's right? I go off of I go off of intuition or vibes. I really don't like, and I guess this is the whole point of the conversation. I don't like letting people down, you know? And I would say that, like, one of my core strategies in life is to structure in a way where I don't let people down, you know? And my meter for gauging if I'm succeeding is like positive feedback. Good job. You're killing it. Not like I'm looking for pats on the back, but it just gives me like confirmation. Okay, you're happy? Okay, you're happy. Great. I'm going to keep doing whatever I do. And then whenever I do get like an angry phone call, it's like, oh, you didn't consider me. That's when it's like, okay, what do I got to do to make them understand that I don't have to? You know, I don't have to think of you when I do certain things. It's the kind of story of my life. But yeah.
Well, tell me where that came from then.
Relationships, girlfriends. Yeah, definitely girlfriends. I think I'm a very happy, go lucky, chill person. And when I find myself in relationships with women, they want me to be some different kind of way than what I am. And it really creates a lot of resentment and frustration in me. And then now that I'm building this whole thing and it requires the collaboration of multiple people, there's no real difference between a romantic relationship and a relationship with a business partner or talent or athlete or what have you. It's all about feelings. You know, it's always about feelings. And my feelings are not attached to someone else. My feelings are attached to my goals. So when I spend time with a person, this is just an opportunity to exist in the same space. Whatever you do has nothing to do with me. And I never get that reciprocated, ever. It's so frustrating, you know, because like I don't have ill will towards another person. I just want to be left alone and, you know, take over the world, you know?
Yeah. Well, what's the cost of being left alone?
I I see a lot of value in being left alone personally. What's the cost? Probably an inability to collaborate, which is like a big priority for me. I want to collaborate with as many people as I can.
Yeah. Well, what is the connection between collaboration and your ultimate goal?
It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. The narrative that I run in my head is I'm taking myself through the steps of becoming the de facto king of the world leader. That's like the story, right? But what it's supposed to look like is an idealized world of leaders who are all basically leading their environment to a brighter future. And I basically paved the way for those individuals to think like that and to interact with other leaders in that same community to basically create this perception of world peace. So it's vital. Collaboration is essential in order to achieving this goal.
Okay. May I make an observation?
Of course.
So at first, when we first started talking, you're like, how can I build this without taking into consideration people's feelings? How can I make decisions without focusing on someone's feelings? And this idea that other people's feelings hold me back. Mm-hmm. And yet in this conversation, you've mentioned a few feelings that you look for to propel you forward. Is someone happy with me? The feelings that come up for you when you are attached to, when you think about your goal, what are those feelings?
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction.
Satisfaction is a huge one.
Yeah.
It's like a driving force. I'm typically not satisfied. I'm not happy with the state of the world, and I don't like the people in charge. I don't think we have good role models, and I aim to change it over the course of my lifetime, and that's what drives me. So I will experience immense satisfaction once it's done.
Okay. So happiness, satisfaction, what are the other
Mm,
emotions that you want to experience in
in
this
life?
journey?
Oh, in journey? Uh, Satisfaction, happiness, contentment. That's kind of a synonym. What else? Honestly, I'm not a complex guy on the inside. Love, love is nice. It's a nice feeling, but it's like I don't really trust it because if I love a person, then it's like, oh, well, what have you done for me? It just feels like not a real. It's not mutual. It's just I haven't had that great of experiences with love. Um, but I still like the concept. So yeah, positive stuff. The hero's journey, whatever the typical hero experiences over the course of their beginning, middle, and end. Those are the types of feelings I'm okay with feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what are the feelings that get in your way?
Oh, frustration. I experience frustration. Um, Sometimes I wonder if my desire to be ruthless is a positive or a negative. So maybe a little bit of indecision as to like how I want to move through the world. Maybe a little bit. Yeah, yeah. Because when I think about, one of the non-fictional individuals that I can point at and reference as to like the success of the same blueprint, Vince McMahon. And I don't know how much you know about the guy, but wasn't a good person. Not a good person at all. Very cutthroat and just not a good person. So when I think about that, it's like, okay, well, he got the job done, but what adjustments, revisions can I make to the way that he got the job done that would still be more positive for everyone considered? Dana White is another example. Dana White was able to build the UFC franchise into $1 billion company, and there's still a lot of discrepancy on UFC fighter pay, and the general consensus is that he doesn't really care about his fighters. So like we're not looking to replicate that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want to be empathetic, but I also, it's like weird. You get what I'm saying? It's like on the one side, I want to be incredibly considerate of everyone, which is why I take feedback and it's like, hey, if you're happy, I'm happy.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, don't get in my way, like don't tell me what to do, you know? Yeah. 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 So it's weird. It's
What
weird.
just happened when you said that out loud?
Sometimes, well, I don't have this conversation every day, So of course there's a discovery. Plus it's not like you and I talk all the time. So, and this is like your job. So I understand that this is a unique conversation in, the process of this whole thing.
What are you discovering?
I really want to be a nice guy. It's like a genuine desire. I just naturally want to be a nice person. But I still don't want that niceness to be taken advantage of. I don't want someone to get in my way and try to tell me how to live my life. At the end of the day, I always think, and I make decisions off of this intention, am I adding value to this person's life? If I am, then good. Then it's like if you were to remove me from the person's life, their life either stays the same or it might get worse if I'm out of the equation. Like that's how I make my decisions. So when a person complains to me about like, oh, you're not doing me right, I can't help but think I don't make this like I literally structure my life to add value to a person's life. So if I'm failing that, then yeah, I don't want to be involved at all. If I'm not adding value to your life, then like get me out of the equation. But typically is the case because it's so intentional. You know, it's like I'm succeeding. I succeed. So I don't want to hear about like how much or little value I'm adding because I'm not making your life worse. I'm making it better. So where's the complaint? Like, why are you complaining? You know?
Yeah. I'm just noticing this connection around I want to be a nice guy. So if someone tells me that I'm not considerate, they seem to be conflicting with a value and a belief that you have with yourself, an intention that you have with yourself, which makes you want to remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's like there's like social norms that I just don't, they're not mine. I didn't make them. I'm like the type of person where it's like, if I didn't come up with the rule, then it's not my rule, period. So like a typical example, I have a friend, he, my dad came to visit. I have a 5-year-old son. So the first year that my son was alive, my dad comes to visit LA. He's over on the East Coast. He comes to visit LA, and we're going to meet my closest friend. Shout out Vito. And my dad shows up with like a bottle of wine and brings to Vito's house. And Vito says to my dad, in the 6 years, 7 years that I've known your son, he has never shown up with anything to the house. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And like it's not my love language, and I don't want someone to tell me that like, oh, I'm a bad friend because I don't show up with a fucking bottle of wine, Yeah. I show up with good vibes. I show up with like solutions to your fucking problems, let's like not cherry pick what I am and am not doing, So
what is this really about? What are you really looking for?
Permission to, I think in my teenage years, back when I was living on the East Coast before I came to LA and reinvented myself, my family, they would call me an asshole and a narcissist because I'm goal oriented and I just do whatever I want. I didn't think that they were accurate. But I guess if I were to really dive deep into my leadership strategy, perhaps the outside perception would be that I am inconsiderate, maybe narcissistic. Maybe a person would like make that perception, and I'm an asshole. They'd be completely wrong, but that might be the perception from somebody. Yeah. And maybe it's just permission to like be okay with that. Maybe. I didn't know until I said it, but like that might be it.
Tell me a little bit more about it, like the permission to be okay with they view me differently than I view myself.
Yeah. I guess it's a matter as to like who, Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe I just don't care. Maybe I don't care. Maybe just talking about it right now, it's helping me understand that I really don't care. Because I believe in the success of what I'm doing, and I believe that the success will lead to a better world for everyone. So why should I care how a person feels about the way that I go about achieving the success? I really shouldn't. So that's kind of freeing. Yeah.
What just happened?
I feel kind of liberated. I feel kind of liberated. And then outside of the liberation, then I do still want to focus on properly acknowledging people who contribute. So we can go into a bit more specifics on that. I've been doing this natural bodybuilding movement for 2 years now. Started at the beginning of 2024. At the beginning, and I'm a filmmaker, right? And this is a franchise, so it can be presented in the form of documentary, TV show. I also have an anime concept. There's so many different ways to share the story and different layers and stuff like that. That's just kind of how I do it. So when I first started the project, I was presenting it in the form of a documentary. And that documentary stars myself and my training partner, who goes by the Instagram handle Valley Muscle. The issue that I'm having is that, like I said, this is my idea, and I am the writer and storyteller and designer of it. However, he was there at the iteration of it as the co-star of the documentary. And now that it's turned into this TV show with 30 natural bodybuilders, he's one of those athletes. And he's feeling like he's left out of the loop when I make decisions in relation to the project, because he feels that we're partners in this whole thing. And if I'm not making a decision with him, then it diminishes his role in the project. And I understand how that might feel. And I think the strategy for me would be to help him better understand his contributions and not mine.
Yeah. There's a word that keeps coming up for me just in terms of like what we're really seeking here. And the word that's coming up for me, and you can let me know how this lands for you, is acceptance.
Yep. I don't think any of us, in relation to what it is that I'm doing, should feel any kind of friction, resistance, negative feelings. I don't see the need for negative feelings.
What do you want them to accept?
That this is going to work and that you get what you put out. So if you want more value or acknowledgement, like, you got to put the work in. You can't just look at me and expect me to hand you something. You know, I'm creating the environment. I'm creating the environment for all of us to succeed. In that environment, it is now your job to make yourself valuable. It's not mine. Mm-hmm. My job is building. I've built this for us. And now you get to do whatever you want in this playground. It's a sandbox, you know? And me being the wonderful, creative person I am, like, I can bounce ideas off of you and we can come up with like something really cool for your specific character, brand, identity, and it'll be great. But like, it's still you. It's like, it's not me. There's a distinction. And it's very important for me to identify individuals within, honestly, the entire world. It's like, we are like one people and stuff like that, but I like heroes. I like to identify role models. So it's not just me. It's not just you. It's everyone who has the opportunity to lead. That's who I'm looking to highlight. But like, I'm not going to put the words in your mouth. You know, I'm not going to write the script for you.
So what do you want to accept about yourself and your leadership style?
I don't want a baby. And honestly, I'm grateful for this conversation because this is still at the beginning. You know, this is year 2. And it's important to identify my future leadership style. And I am nice, pleasant, genuine, authentic, kind. But I don't go out of my way to be kind. I don't go out of my way to be, you know, chummy. Hey, are you okay? Like, I'm not that guy. I'm not the guy who's like, I'll put it to you like this. Let's say we were working together on a consistent basis and I was seeing you on like a regular, like daily or weekly or whatever. And I come into work and you're there and like, you look a little down. I'll perceive it and ask, hey, is everything okay? That's your opportunity to tell me. And based off of your body language and your tone, I will dig deeper, or I'll be like, okay, she's got a husband. She's got other people in her community that can help her. So I'm going to go fuck off. Like, that's how I do it. But what I'm not going to do is, like, if I'm looking to communicate with you via text and your text is like a little, you know, short, but it's still like you're giving me the information I'm looking for. It's just short. I'll look at it and go like, might be in a bad mood today. move on with my fucking life, you know? Because I think about it's like we should all have a community. We should all have like it shouldn't just be me, you know? So it's like we should all be helping each other. It's like one big happy family, and I don't want to take on the responsibility of like making your day better always, you know? I'm just naturally making your day better. I don't want to like prioritize making your day better, if that makes sense.
It makes sense. And so what it seems to me is that there's this tension that I'm noticing between kind, authentic, empathetic, and ruthless.
Yeah.
Whereby it seems like when you're leading with these factors, kindness, authenticity, empathy, and it's received as not enough to someone.
Yeah, that shit pisses me the fuck off.
So then you are starting to question, well, maybe I just need to brand myself as ruthless because then people will just know what to expect and perhaps be less offended. We're just entering into this contract where I accept myself as ruthless, you accept me as ruthless, nobody's surprised. No one's caught off guard, including, and most importantly, yourself.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And, you know, it's like actions speak louder than words at the end of the day. So if I'm tailoring my success off of the likes of Vince McMahon and Dana White, we can identify the things that they did wrong or are perceived as like unjust.
Okay.
Vince McMahon was like, he sexually assaulted women. He was a liar. He cheated. Dana White, I don't even know his history, but he didn't do good things. So it's like, if I'm perceived as ruthless, but like everything I'm doing, my actions show like my athletes are fucking fed, you know, they're getting paid. They're being rewarded for, you know, their contributions to this project. Everyone within the empire that I have built, they fucking won. So if that's the perception or if that's the actual result, then however people might want to try to perceive me, they will be, like I said, completely inaccurate. Because if we're judging off of actions and my actions align with, oh, this guy took care of his team, we're fucking good, you know?
So I want to go back to your original goal for this session. You wanted to leave here with the permission to be ruthless. What do you really want to give yourself permission for now?
I really want to give myself permission to actually take over the world. Like literally take over the world. I'm looking for permission to do that. No one's ever done it. And I guess because no one's ever done it, who can really give permission to do that, you know? But that's what I want to do. And I want to do it the way that I want to do it. And since no one can really tell me how to do it, since no one's ever done it, however I choose to do it, you know, no one really gets a say. You can obviously give opinion and perspective, suggestions, advisements, but how I choose to take over the world, because it's never been done before, is completely up to me.
Okay. There's a permission underneath that. In order to give yourself permission to take over the world, what do you want to give yourself permission for first?
Probably accept that people aren't going to be happy with how I choose to do things. And it frustrates me. Just even talking about it frustrates me.
I'm noticing.
Because, like, what would you be doing if I wasn't in the picture? You know, apply that to girlfriends, business partners, whatever. Like, if I didn't exist, what would you be doing? So if you would like that reality more, then, like, just kick me out. You don't have to be involved, you know? So, like, do not come to me with your shit. Because if you don't like this world that we're creating together, because it is a collaboration, if you don't like it, then fucking do something else. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't want to like hear bitching and complaining about it. It's not like it's your choice. We're all consenting to this process. Yeah.
Your voice got elevated.
Yeah, I'm incredibly passionate about this, and it's like it's not an old thing, you know. I've been ambitious forever. And I've been working with people because my type of ambition is in relation to collaboration. I want to see a more harmonious world. So it requires the work of other people. And I chose film initially because I like seeing a really great film be made. And like when you get to the end of a movie and you see hundreds and hundreds of names all working together to create this great product. And then like the best picture award goes to the producer, you know? So that's what I'm passionate about. And throughout all this time of working with people, dating all the way back to high school and having a film team, having a film crew then, it's like, they're still bitching, you know, about how I choose to do things. But it's like, if I don't do things the way I do them, nothing gets done. So like, what are our options here? You want me to be nicer, or you want to actually get the thing done? You know, that's where the frustration comes from.
Yeah. And I just want to acknowledge that you're very passionate about this idea.
Sure. Because I believe it will work, and I believe it will actually make the world a better place. That's why I'm passionate.
Yeah. And as you were explaining that, what was the permission that you were exercising for yourself just now?
This whole thing is about perception.
Yes.
All of it.
Yes.
And I fall back on the concept that actions do speak louder than words. And I know that I'm a good person on the inside. So however I choose to express myself or my passion, even if it comes off arrogant or aggressive or ruthless, the permission that I'm giving myself is that it's not the end of the world. It really isn't, you know, because people are still going to do whatever they want. I can potentially turn a person off with my personality or my passion, but that would be an error on their part. And I would probably be able to win them back over as I continue to lead by actions. So I think that's probably the permission. You're a good listener.
Thank you.
Yeah. Did you know someone within my community recognized you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. They're like, "Oh, that's Shan's sister." I was like, "Huh." I love networking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, how are you feeling right now?
I feel pretty relaxed. Another thing that I wanted to touch on is motivating factors. Motivating factors. So I really initially, when I first met you 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had just met with a person who expressed a desire to invest in my project.
Yes.
And then for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I was floating around the concept that we might have an angel investor, which was true. And I noticed how when I started using money to articulate the project,
Yep.
how people would get very excited.
Your $1 million.
Yeah. And like I would see how like their pupils dilate and shit like that. And I was like, okay, we got something here, right? And within the past couple of days, within my correspondence with the angel investor, he isn't dead, but he wants more of the infrastructure of the business built before he makes a decision to invest, which I completely respect. Since then, though, I have been kind of restructuring how I actually pitch the project, because I don't want to lie, you know? And initially it's like, if we had $1 million coming to us, then it's like, hey, $1 million is secured, hop on board, get your chance to compete for $1 million cash prize. This is game changer, right? And yeah, fantastic. Now that the $1 million is not yet secured, but it's later on down the line, I'm focusing more on what else actually motivates people and gets them to invest, not necessarily financially, but their hearts and their emotions. How do they become attached to a movement? And it's actually interesting because I point to WWE a lot based off of their blueprint, but there was a competitor franchise that went by ECW, which was led by Paul Heyman. And what's interesting about that story is that ECW was always considered the underdog between, I mean, WWE was this, by the time that it got there, it was a behemoth of a product, you know? And ECW was like gritty, very violent, just like their ugly cousin, you know? And what I thought was so interesting is that Paul Heyman, as the founder of ECW, he was able to inspire his athletes and his fans with devotion and loyalty. And like there were so many times. I mean, I just watched a documentary about Vince McMahon or something in relation to wrestling. And they were talking about how there were times when Paul Heyman was literally telling his wrestlers before they went on stage that night that he didn't have their paychecks. And he was still asking them to go out and put on a great performance with no money. And they would still do it. And then you take that in relation to WWE, and they're super successful, and they're all like money driven. So I guess the idea that, or the thought that I've been playing with is be a leader like Paul Heyman and inspire allegiance, loyalty, passion, drive, and commitment while still aiming to be as successful as someone who is perhaps money driven as Vince McMahon, which I believe I can do both. But it's like, it's different. There's different core intentions,
Okay.
you know?
What I'm hearing is essentially you want people to trust you. You want people to trust the vision.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm also hearing, have heard throughout this conversation is I have trust problems.
Yeah. So what do we do about it?
And I've also heard the most important thing for you, one of the most important things for you is leading by example.
Uh-huh. So you're saying I have to get over my trust issues?
What do you think I'm saying?
What does that even look like?
What I'm saying is we need to explore this thing that you want to receive
Uh-huh.
and simultaneously do not want to give.
You got to give and get. So I got to trust.
We have these two things that are very much conflicting.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to give trust. I want to lead by example. I want people to trust me.
Trust hurts. I've been hurt by
Yes.
trusting people. And you know, the thing is that people's words aren't valuable. You know, it's like, oh, I say I'm going to do something. It doesn't happen. Well, now who's the asshole?
Yeah.
Me or the person who said that you're going to do the thing?
Yes.
You know, so I trust myself because I hold myself to a very high standard. If I say I'm going to do a thing, I'm going to do the thing. So that's where the trust comes from. If people aren't behaving like that, how am I supposed to trust them? My dad always said, you trust a person to be themselves. I do that. So, you know, maybe there's some leeway there, but like I trust a person to be themselves, but I see the potential in another person, and who they are currently might not equate to the potential that I see for themselves. So I'm looking to create, or I'm looking to evolve that person to the standard that I perceive for them.
And trust hurts,
Yeah.
which is a feeling that you can empathize with.
Yeah.
So what would it take for people to overcome that fear for themselves in order to trust you?
I think I'm pretty trustworthy. What would it take for them to overcome that fear? What would it take? That's a good question. Let me think for a second. I need a moment to think about that.
Take your time.
What would it take for people to overcome? It's the solution was performance, to create a character that people could believe in. An individual who is incredibly authentic, genuine, transparent, honest, and holds values of integrity and nobility, and presenting that to the public. That was the idea. And the more that my reach expands and the more people become recognized with my name and likeness and understand that my brand is associated with those core values, then trust would be cemented throughout the people that I influence.
What makes you say that's a performance?
Because I could have never left the East Coast. There was a moment, we can call it enlightenment. I experienced enlightenment when I was age 23. And it was pretty cool. You know, once I got there, I was like, all right, now what? What do we want to do now? Because like I didn't recognize my original identity. You know, I was just a new person, right? So there was a moment where I'm eating breakfast, and I was thinking, it's like, okay, so we got options here. We either move to Tibet and become like a monk who just meditates all day long, and like that's how you spend the rest of your life because there's nothing else to do. You know, you don't got to do shit. You're done, right? So that was an option, and then the other option was like, hey, didn't you want to become a movie star? That was always my dream. That was like my dream job was to be a movie star from age like 6 to age 23. Like my dream was to be a movie star. So I had those thoughts, Tibetan monk or movie star. And I was like, movie star sounds more fun. Just sounds more fun. So let's go to the West Coast. And while we do that, let's make a positive impact on the world. And with my background in theater and acting, writing, storytelling, filmmaking, stuff like that, this is a performance. You know, social media, this is a performance. Yeah, this is like my authentic self, but the authentic self is tailored to certain ways of delivery, certain ways that my face moves is in relation to presenting the type of leader that I believe will impact the world in the way that I intend. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's still me. It's just like a tailored, refined version that I'm presenting to the world.
Yeah. So tell me the connection between performance and trust.
Well, the fact that I'm even talking about it, you know, so like, I don't want this whole thing's supposed to finish. Like my story is supposed to finish deathbed. And there is no one who is more authentic and honest than myself. Specifically as a public figure, you know? So that's the connection. I'm telling everyone that this is a performance. And this performance is intended to inspire people to go after the best versions of themselves. Because if anything, if what the performance is, it's the best version of myself. That's what I'm presenting. So that would be the connection. I'm telling everyone that this is a performance of the best version of Shaun Fury.
Okay.
Yeah. It was either that or meditate in a Tibetan monastery.
And it almost seems like when, I don't know how to put this, when it becomes not performative.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When the cameras are off,
Mm-hmm.
when there's no one around,
Mm-hmm.
less trust.
I'm not even going to call this sad, but honestly, the way that I've structured this whole thing, in my mind, the cameras are never off. Ever, ever, ever. The cameras are never off.
So when does it stop being a performance and when does it start being who you authentically are?
Probably after the first Oscar or something. I don't know. By then, it's probably going to be like an identity crisis. Probably need you for that. But that's like...
because that's too what we're talking about as well, because there's the Shaun Fury that people are looking at from a leadership perspective in terms of leading a vision. Mm-hmm. And then there's the people who are working behind the scenes.
They should see the same guy.
Yes. And this conversation is usually one way. Mm-hmm. What goes on behind the scenes is it's a two-way conversation. Mm-hmm. The performative trust is one thing because, again, it's one way. I'm performing. I'm on a stage. I'm showing you who I am. Take it or leave it. I can't see you. But when we need to interact and now it's a two-way dialogue, that's where it seems like that's where the trust conflict starts to come up.
Yeah. So it's because humans, they act as mirrors for one another, right? So what I find is that the reason that most people are operating at this low level in relation to a higher vibrational frequency, if you want to use words like that. It's because they're mirroring off of other people who are at a low vibration. And the solution is raise the vibration, right? So the issue that I run into sometimes is that if I'm interacting with a person one-on-one and we're mirroring each other, then it's my job to raise you to my level instead of me going to yours. And I suppose the trust happens when the concept of failing, like if I failed to evolve you, you know, and then it's like, that's on me, you know?
What makes it your job?
That's the intention. You know, if I'm aiming to be the leader of the planet, then if I did not evolve you, it's my failure. So I didn't know that this was about trust. It's actually funny because like I've always said I had trust issues, but I just kind of like said it flippantly. Yeah, I got trust issues. I do, legitimately. But it's like people just let me down, you know, and they lie. And the thing is, people lie is like they lie intentionally to create a feeling in the person that they're lying to, or they lie to themselves and they don't even know it, you know? And it's like, that's who I'm dealing with.
Okay. People lie.
Mm-hmm.
To me, they lie to myself. People let me down.
Mm-hmm.
Let's keep going. Where is that taking you?
Sadness, a desire to not rely on anyone, and to do it all myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
that's the story.
Yeah. So the strategy is we focus on what motivates a person to lie. Some kind of reward, some kind of gain. People think that if they lie, then they will feel differently about themselves or create a feeling within someone else that they're lying to that will lead them to a positive outcome, right? So the strategy is to reward people for being honest. Leading by example, if Shaun Fury is the most honest individual that anyone can think of, and look at the life he's living, and he's so goddamn honest, let me be honest too. So I have to create the world that I want to exist in. During that time, yeah, I might have some trust issues.
And I tell you why it comes down to trust. Trust is the foundation. So there is a man by the name of Patrick Lencioni who wrote a book about 5 dysfunctions of a team. And essentially, like, what is it that causes dysfunctional environments? So he created this pyramid. At the bottom of the pyramid is absence of trust. If there is an absence of trust, then there is a fear of conflict. And fear of conflict means people don't bring forward ideas. People don't talk about what's really going on for them. People don't challenge the status quo. People don't innovate, right? Because they're too afraid. They don't have trust in the other person. So there is no, without conflict, there is no collaboration. Instead, you create an environment of artificial harmony. It's fine, whatever. And when you have artificial harmony, the next layer up is a lack of commitment. People don't buy in.
Wow.
People don't buy in because they don't feel heard. They don't feel seen. It's not, and commitment doesn't necessarily mean, oh, my idea is the one that we're going with. But it's that piece of like, how do I feel? How did I feel in that conflict piece?
Did I feel heard?
And when you have a lack of commitment, the next layer up is a lack of accountability, where people just start to fend for themselves. People just become more self-reliant, which impacts the results, because then people are just more concerned about their own individual agenda versus the agenda of the bigger team, the bigger picture. So you're trying to build this world where people are focused on that collective results, and yet
The bottom.
the bottom.
So we're in agreement that trusting a person to be themselves is not sufficient for trust.
If it's working, then it's sufficient. If it's not, if you are not receiving the intended results that you want to receive, then it's not working. There is no such thing as good or bad. It's am I experiencing the results that I want to experience? So let's reverse the pyramid now. Because when there is trust, when you establish trust with a person, now you can enter into conflict. To your point, someone can give you their ideas. Someone can challenge what you're thinking. And you can have this conversation. You can have healthy conflict in this arena. And you don't necessarily have to agree with them, but because they trust you and they trust your vision and they trust you, they're more likely to be like, you know what? It's not how I would do it, but okay, I see where you're going. I'm in, which gives you that layer of commitment, which gives you the personal accountability piece where people are, when they're bought into the vision, they hold themselves accountable, which means they hold themselves and others around them to a higher standard. And that's where you get the results that you're looking for. So in the beginning, you said, I say I have trust issues flippantly. It's a buzz thing to say. A lot of people say I have trust issues. But when you're trying to lead a team to greatness, it is the thing you need to challenge. It is the thing you need to show up in first, because other people will look to you to give themselves permission to enter into that trust. Having trust issues may have gotten you here. It's not going to get you there. That's it.
So, what do you think the solution is?
When you think about the challenges you're facing now, and you think about trust, what would a 2 millimeter shift? Well, let me put it this way. What would you actually love? We know what you currently believe about trust. Trust is hard. It hurts. People let you down. People lie. And we know where that was taking you, where you said loneliness, sadness, just wanting to do things for myself. Right?
Wanting to do things my way, or
my way, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Now, which is not your desired result.
Yeah, you're right.
That's not the world you want to build.
No.
So what would you love to believe about trust instead? I'm not saying you have to believe it. I'm just saying, what would you love to believe about trust instead?
I got it.
Go.
We're going to build off of the foundational trust, which my father gave me. Trust a person to be themselves, right? And then we build on top of that. See the best in whoever you're working with or interacting with, and trust that we can live in that reality. Yeah.
What felt good about that?
Optimism. I'm big on optimism.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I guess the only concern would be, I hate being let down. I hate being let down.
Optimism isn't a matter, the thing that people get, let me start over. Optimism is not about looking at the world and people through rose-colored glasses. It's not about believing that everything's going to work out exactly the way that I want it to. That's not optimism. Optimism is, I understand that things may not go my way. I understand that I'm going to be met with challenges. I understand that people are going to do things and believe things and behave in ways that are out of my control. And optimism is saying, I know that I'm going to be okay on the other side of that.
Oh, that's kind of sweet. It becomes more personal.
Yes. So if I trust you and you let me down, my optimism, my value of optimism says, I'll be fine. I'll be okay.
I really like that. I've never heard that before. I'm naturally an optimistic person, so that's something I would say, easily apply.
Yeah.
It's sad though, but because I want to see the best in everyone. So it does feel like a failure when it's like I didn't get it out of them. You know, it feels like, what could I have done differently?
Mm-hmm.
How could I have articulated myself in a way that would have resulted in them being honest and forthcoming?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so I take those on, but I like it.
So let's take the phrase, I have trust issues. How might you want to rewrite that right now?
I have trust issues. Because it's like whatever you say, that's the truth, you know. So, how would I rewrite it? I want. You really put me on the spot here.
Yeah.
This shit's old. Shit goes back
Yeah.
over a decade. How would I rewrite it that I have trust issues? I want to see the best in everyone. And then if I don't, it's going to be okay. Maybe something like that.
Well, your head tilted when you said it. What does that mean?
Well, I was thinking of my dad. Yeah, I was thinking of my dad for some reason because I said something. I had said, I want to see the best in everyone, and if I don't, then it's going to be okay. Yeah. My dad did something to me like a week or so ago that was just like pretty foul, you know? So if I were to take that statement, I want to see the best in everyone, and if I don't, it's going to be okay. I was okay.
Yeah. And just notice, though, again, the difference in that narrative, because the one way that could have happened, because you have a belief that people let you down, this is why you don't trust. So that situation with your dad fueled the evidence of this is why you don't trust. Double down. This is why you don't do that shit. Mm-hmm. Versus, I'm going to be okay. Oh, well, yeah, I was okay. He did something. It was foul. Mm-hmm. And I was okay. It doesn't need to become a hit apply all to everywhere in my business and my life.
Do you know that is a strategy that I heard somewhere within like the past 2 years, where it's like everything that's happening to you, it's happening right now, but it is not indicative of it happening again, and you should respond to every new circumstance fresh.
Yes.
You know, with like fresh eyes.
And so your value of optimism, so it's not about, okay, Shaun, you need to be a different person now. You need to completely rewrite things in here. It's about, how do I apply optimism, which I truly do believe in, to trust where I struggle.
That's really cool. That's really cool. But I still have to be real with myself when it comes to the assessment of who I'm interacting with.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you say you have a fear of heights and we're going on a roller coaster, and I go like, are you sure you want to go on this roller coaster? And you're like, yeah, I'm fine. Where am I trusting? Am I trusting the truth of this situation that you're saying that you're fine? Or am I trusting my past knowledge of you that you have a fear of heights?
First of all, it's not your decision what I do.
Yeah, but
Nope.
So here's the thing though. Here, and this is actually like, this is a circumstance. So we get on there and we're on the roller coaster and you're fucking freaking out. And now it's my fault.
Here's the thing you got to trust. Give me the initial trust statement, because this is interesting.
Oh, with the roller coaster?
No.
Oh.
So I trust that people.
Yeah. I see the best in people.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't happen, then I'm going to be okay.
Then it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
What you also need to trust and I think this is a bit of a conflict, is I think that you have a belief that you know what's best for people.
A little bit.
Yeah. But what if you trusted that that person was responsible for their own future?
Yeah, that'd be nice, but
What if you trusted that that person was responsible for their own outcomes?
can I tell them, like, hey, here's the likelihood of what's going to happen? Am I allowed to do that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The end.
All right.
After that,
I'm good with
I
that.
trust you
Yeah.
to be the CEO of your business.
Yes. Yes.
I'm the CEO of my business.
Yeah.
I trust you to be the CEO of your own business. I'm not hired to be the CEO. You're not hired to be the CEO of everybody else's business, but you want to act like it. You're the CEO of your business, which means that you will take in people's input, you will take in people's observations, you will take in people's advice, suggestions, and feelings, and you trust yourself to make your own decision about what happens next. So that same trust you are looking for from others, you have to give it to other people to be the CEO of their own business because you want people to recognize you as the CEO of this one.
I like that. I like that. Okay. Okay. And as we come to a close, I would like to get better clarification. This is a specific thing that I'm looking to flesh out. So going back to my training partner and co-star of the documentary, Valley Muscle, I do want to honor his perception of this partnership.
Right.
And as more athletes come on, let's say we're looking for 30, right? So I want to give honor, acknowledgement to the fact that he was there at the beginning and he has offered a level of contribution via creativity, energy, you know? I want to honor that. However, I don't want to give him credit that he doesn't deserve because I don't think it would serve him or myself or the project.
There you go.
So do we have any ideas on that?
You just said it.
All right. But is there like a special name? Is there a special title?
Negotiation.
Okay. All right. Compensation.
Compensation.
Okay.
Negotiation. There again, like that's what you're really negotiating is two people with a perception of the value that they bring. So it's hard to say because essentially you would need to but that's exactly the thing you're talking about here is what are the things that I might be willing to give on that feel fair to my perception of this person's value and contribution? And how do I get a better understanding of what they believe is fair to their value and contribution? Because when those two stories collide, now it's a negotiation.
Yeah. And in a negotiation like that, I don't want to be over domineering, you know?
So you ask questions. What is the question you want to ask?
What do you think you've contributed to this project?
There you go.
That's fucking good. Yeah. And then build off of that question and that answer.
Yep.
And then through that, we can identify who you are.
Yes.
Okay. Big boy pants type stuff.
What do you believe you've contributed to this project so far? What do you see yourself contributing down as we continue to evolve?
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you believe is fair? What's important to you?
Yeah, because, one thing I've tried to communicate to him is that, like, my aspirations exceed outside of this project. I'm literally, like I said, looking to become a world leader.
Right.
You've never expressed that, so we can't make the same decisions. If my goals take me to politics and you don't, so it's like we're not the same, so we can't really share the same role.
But allow them to tell their story. Allow them to be the CEO of their own business and represent their value, their wishes, their desires, and then you can have a conversation versus you deciding what they're thinking, what they believe, what they want.
I think this is good.
Good.
Yeah.
What is one thing you are leaving here with today that you didn't have coming in?
I feel more, what's the word that I'm looking for? I see, it's funny. Optimism. I knew that we were going to talk about optimism when we first scheduled this like 3 weeks ago, but I didn't know how powerful the concept or the philosophy of being optimistic was going to apply to personal interactions.
Yes.
So, and that's great for me because like I'm an optimistic guy.
Yeah.
So that's good. That's a win.
It's always amazing when you have a strength that can very directly support an opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if your strength is optimism, you're like, well, I understand optimism. I can apply it here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I might get ready to have a girlfriend now.
Change your whole life.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. We'll take it slow.
One step at a time.
Yeah, yeah. But cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Nice.
Here.
Guys, that was great.
Thank you, Alex.
That was great.